The Crazy Craw. Start by grabbing a size 4 Daiichi 1710 hook. Then go ahead and place it firmly in the jaws of your vise. Now load a bobbin with UTC 140 in black. Go ahead and start your thread right behind the eye and wrap back before cutting the tag end of thread off. Now, you don't need to take a close wraps, but create a thread base around the hook from the eye to just before the barb. Now grab a pair of medium dumbbell eyes. Place them about 2 eyes back from the hook eye, and take cross wraps to secure them. Then go ahead and do a couple of figure 8 wraps to really lock them in place. And to save your wraps, go ahead and take some wraps above the hook shank but below the eyes to really secure it. Make sure the eyes are aligned perfectly so that the hook will ride up. Now go to some super glue to save your progress even more. Place a couple drops with your hook inverted on what would be the top of your eyes when fishing, and go ahead and place them on the bottom. Then set it to dry. Now go to some olive Arizona semi-seal dubbing. Pick out a nice clump and kind of pull the fibers and align the tips. This will create your rostrum, which is kind of like the head of the crayfish. Measure it to be about 3/4 of a hook shank in length, and bring that measurement to the back bend of the hook and tie it down, extending past the hook bend. Once secure, you can cut the excess off that is facing the eyes. And then take a couple more thread wraps to lock your progress in place. Now go to some rubber legs. Here, kind of olive and light olive barred. You will need 3. Go ahead and fold those 3 rubber legs over your thread, bring them on top of the hook, and wrap down towards the bend, pulling 3 legs to each side of the hook. Now go ahead, lift the legs up, and cut them at a length that's either 2 times the rostrum or 2 times the hook length. Position your thread about in front of the barb. Now go to a dubbing twister. Go ahead and create about a 4 or 5 inch dubbing loop by bringing your thread on the hooks of the dubbing twister and then making a loop and kind of going around that loop to make it a tighter loop. Then position your thread right behind the eye with a couple of half hitches so that when you're making your dubbing loop, the thread won't get in the way. Now go back to some olive semi-seal, but this time grab slightly sparser clumps. Spread those clumps out and open the loop and push it up as close to the fly as you can. Continue this process until you have a nice full dubbing loop. If you can't get the dubbing super close to the hook and there's a little bare thread between the dubbing and the hook, then that's fine. Then go ahead and hold the bottom and twist, and then let go, and the dubbing loop should twist, creating a nice thick dubbing loop. Once twisted to desired, go ahead and take a dubbing brush or scissors, or just pick them out with a bodkin and make it all bushy and all that. Then go ahead and swipe all the dubbing to one side and start palmering it up like if it was hackle. Make touching wraps. You can use the rotary function of your vise if you can. Make sure you press all the fibers back to get a nice full body. Once you reach the dumbbell eyes, go ahead and take your thread and secure the rest of the dubbing loop before cutting it off. The dubbing loop, not your thread. Now carefully take the blade of your scissors and kind of sparse out the dubbing. You can use a dubbing brush if you want, but I think scissors is more effective. Just make sure you don't cut your thread or rubber legs. Then go ahead and push all the dubbing to the back bend of the hook. Now go to some northern bucktail and olive. Flip it over and hit the back of it, what would be facing the tail on the deer, and cut a section that's about a pencil's in width, before getting all the fuzzies out with a comb. It should shrink up to about a half a pencil width. And then go ahead and stack it. I like to use the back of the bucktail because it's more colorful than the sides. Yeah, you're using this and not what you would normally use as a closer. Once the tips are stacked, go ahead and coir them in your tying hand. Face the tips to the bend of the hook. You may need to take any long fibers out here. You want the tips to extend past the bend of the hook, just over the rostrum, maybe a bit shorter than that. Then position them on top of the hook behind the dumbbell eyes. And take a couple wraps, making sure to display it just a little bit, but not too much, as you wouldn't want the fibers sticking straight up. Take a couple more collecting wraps, and kind of pull the butt ends up and transfer your thread in front of the dumbbell eyes, and again, tie the hair down. At this point, go ahead and take a couple wraps in front of the butt ends, pull the butt ends back, and do a couple of whip finishes. At this point, you can cut off your thread. Now, with the butt ends, you can cut a tail that's about 1 centimeter in length. And once that's done, you can maybe work it out, pick any fibers that are astray, and the fly is done. And if you want to, you can add some super glue on top of that shell to make sure none of the hairs pull out. This does increase the durability of the fly. Once that glue is set, it's ready to be fished.